Yeah. Old Don be on some other stuff, bro. Oh, all right, people. What's up? We are back. Conscious Approach. We're live Tuesday, February 21st. Welcome to the Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. My name is JV Wins. That's my boy Dogon SS. Have a little fun to spit that logical content on this beautiful Tuesday evening. Before we kick off with the proceedings, I'm going to say, as I always like to say, um, if you happen to be catching this video or this type of video for the first time or catching wind of what we do here on this channel for the first time and you are not a part of the tribe, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Join the tribe. Let us know what you think about what we do over here. Join the conversation, leave a comment. Go ahead and hit that like button, as we always like to say. But definitely, above all else, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can receive notifications whenever we go live or whenever we publish new content to the channel, because we certainly appreciate that as we continue to grow this community. We are currently in a race to 1,000 subscribers. I know that does not mean much to the big wigs on YouTube, but it is our current goal, and you got to crawl before you walk. And we are certainly not embarrassed about the fact that we have to crawl before we walk. So, with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get right into it, man. Starting off this week's topics to talk about Don Lemon. So, Don Lemon is current. Don Lemon, CNN's Don Lemon of Don Lemon Tonight is currently in hot water because he is the latest in the long line of public figures to commit a faux pas on national television, and now he is having to pay his penance for it. So, for anyone who is unaware of what Don Lemon did last week during his morning show, he made a comment that was offensive towards women. Essentially, he made a statement that made it seem as though you cannot be in your prime if you are not in your 20s or 30s or 40s. Now, that doesn't necessarily sound like the worst thing in the world to me, but it's called a bit of an uproar. So he was absent from the show immediately thereafter. He was absent from the show yesterday morning, that being February the 20th. He was also absent from his evening show as well. And as to my knowledge, he also did not appear on any CNN outlets on this Tuesday, February 21st. So we always like to talk about how these social faux pas play out with these public figures and what it all means, and the conversation surrounding certain themes like cancel culture and whatnot. And so this is the latest iteration of such an incident. So we'll go ahead and give our thoughts on what Mr. Lemon is going through. But first, we are going to share the screen so that we can read a bit about what's going on so that you can catch up if you're unaware of currently what's going on. And this is an article from Yahoo. So it says Don Lemon to undergo formal training after Nikki Haley remarks. Will return to CNN show Wednesday. Embattled CNN This Morning anchor Don Lemon will return to the show Wednesday, CNN CEO Chris Licht told staff in a memo Monday night. Licht added that Lemon, who has stepped away from the news network's nascent morning show amid controversy over his comments about Nikki Haley, will participate in formal training before his return, although no details were provided on the type of training he would undertake. Quote, I sat down with Don and had a frank and meaningful conversation. He has agreed to participate in formal training as well as continuing to listen and learn. We take this situation very seriously, Licht said in a memo sent Monday night that was obtained by the Hollywood Reporter. Quote, it is important to me that CNN balances accountability with fostering a culture in which people can own, learn, and grow from their mistakes. To that end, Don will return to CNN This Morning on Wednesday, Licht added. A CNN rep declined to comment. Last Thursday on CNN This Morning, Lemon was discussing Haley's comments that there should be a mental competency test for any politician over age 75. Both President Joe Biden and fellow Republican candidate Donald Trump are over the age of 75. While discussing her remarks, Lemon said that the former South Carolina governor, who is 51, wasn't, quote, in her prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry, Lemon said on Thursday's show. A woman is considered to be in their prime in 20s and 30s and maybe 40s. If you Google when a woman is in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. Following widespread criticism, Lemon later tried to apologize for his comments on Twitter. The reference I made to a woman's prime this morning was inartful. I've never heard that word before, and irrelevant, as colleagues and loved ones have pointed out, and I regret it. He tweeted, "A woman's age doesn't define her either personally or professionally. I have countless women in my life who prove that every day." On
Oh,
Friday,
gee.
Lemon offered an apology to coworkers during a daily editorial call at the news network. Lemon took President's Day off from work, according to a person familiar with the situation, who added that it was not pre planned prior to the events of last week, but was related to the holiday. That is a lie. Lemon
Hmm.
also had the day off Friday, but that had been scheduled before Thursday's on air comments that landed him in hot water. So that's pretty much the gist of it. So, according to CNN, he'll be back on Wednesday. And according to him and CNN, him being absent had nothing to do with the incident, but had everything to do with it being pre planned. Um, you can take that for what it's worth. I personally do not believe that. But be that as it may, Mr. Lemon uh, said that a
Indeed.
woman is not in her prime when she is in her 50s, that she can only be in her prime in her 20s, 30s, and 40s. And it got people upset. Upset enough that he was not on TV and hasn't been on TV since he said it. And now he has to go undergo formal training,
That's right.
whatever that means. So very Kyrie Irving esque, if you ask me. Um, but yeah, what do you make of what Don Lemon is going through in his formal training?
I agree with it totally, 100%. We need to cancel Don Lemon, and this is a step in the right direction for something as petty as this. For you to get canceled for this, there's nobody that I would want more to go through this than Don Lemon. And he just said age and prime. I mean, what prime is he talking about? Political prime? Like, where are we getting at, y'all? And y'all mad about this? This is when woke. This is when woke is so woke that they turn on the woke. And so in this situation here, when they're getting at Don Lemon, who is as politically as correct as you can be, he has one varying opinion. It's not even that deep. And he's getting reprimanded in such an aggressive fashion that he has to go through training. I find this very hilarious, honestly. Very ironic. But for him to get to go through this, I'm all for it. Because he'll be one of the first people in line in the woke mob, in the woke mafia, to want to throw somebody under the bus for saying something misogynistic or racist. So getting a bit of his own medicine here. How do you feel about this situation, bro? I find this absolutely hilarious.
That is, yeah. You know, if Don Lemon had said something that offends black people and this were happening to him, I'd be like, all right, I get it. Because Don Lemon occupies the space in the national media. He occupies the same space in the national media that Marcellus Wiley occupies, Emmanuel Acho, sometimes Shannon Sharp is in this space as well. Um, Michael Strahan at times is occupying this space where he, as a black person who has a national forum, supposedly has a responsibility to parrot the speech of the black collective. And so, because Don Lemon says something that at times isn't consistent with the black collective, he gets called all the stuff that he gets called by black people, sellout and coon and all of this other stuff. The same things that they call Acho and Wiley. Like Wiley will say that this black person didn't get fired because of racism, and black people get mad at him and say that he's a sellout. And it's like, okay, well, maybe that's just his opinion. Why does that have to mean that he's selling out on the black race? But black people can't handle diversity of thought. You have to parrot the speech. And so because Don Lemon at times doesn't parrot the speech, he catches the ire of black people. So if Don Lemon had said something that pissed black people off, and he was going through this, and you already know how corporate America is when it comes to, pretending, what do you call it? Diet woke. So, we already know how dietly woke corporate America is. So you can't do anything that is even remotely misconstrued as racist towards black people. You will get destroyed. And so if Don Lemon had done that, I get it. But what he did here is he said, when you're in your 50s, you're not in your prime. I guess if we want to rake him through the coals for this, I guess this is the point that we're at. I'm not shocked or surprised. I'm still just annoyed by it. Although I do find it comical because I agree with you. Don Lemon usually, outside of the rare times where he will call black people out, he will stick to the script and join the brigade of people who calls everything sexist or misogynistic or transphobic or homophobic or whatever, ick phobic, whatever you want to say. He's the first. Yeah, he's right in line with making sure that we all know that he's an ally for everybody. So for him to have his allies turn on him because he committed this faux pas is very funny. It's comical, but it shows you that it does not matter how much of an ally you decide to be when it comes to this hyper liberal agenda. You will still be a victim of it if you say something that is in poor taste according to how they think about it. So it's best to be someone who thinks for themselves in every situation, no matter what. And you better be someone who thinks for yourself in the beginning and not decide that you're going to follow a wave and decide to be woke, even though you used to have a track record of not doing that, because now your inconsistent past is going to come back to bite you in the ass whenever you commit a faux pas. So it is what it is. If I'm going to be reasonable towards Don Lemon, I'll say that the only thing that he did that he should be held to account for is he didn't specify what, prime can mean anything. And you alluded to this. And he was referring to a woman. So you got to be extra careful because women are another protected species, like, other communities that I won't mention on this video, but women are protected. And so you have to be careful if the subject matter in any particular topic is a female, just like if it's a gay person, a trans person, a Jewish person, you have to be very careful and monitor what you say and provide enough context so as to not allow your comments to be confused with anything else. It's very important that you do that. And he didn't do that. So he just spouted off at the hip talking about a woman not being in her prime in her 50s. And it's like, okay, bro, you need to clarify this. Are you talking about childbearing prime, physical prime, in like intellectual prime, physical prime? Like, what kind of primes are you talking about? Because if you don't clarify it, first of all, even if he was to clarify it, he'd still get bammed up. But you're making it worse by not clarifying, because now you're just whimsically leaving it up to social media troll world to identify you as someone who hates women, basically. And I know that sounds like an extreme, but that's pretty much what this boils down to. It's either A or B, right? It's either one extreme or the other. You're either an ally or you're a hater of an entire population. So as Don Lemon undergoes this formal training, whatever the hell that means, he is someone who is going to have to reconcile with all the people out there how he can be an ally for women while saying these things on national television. And because he didn't provide any context for the use of the word prime in that instance, that's what I can hold him accountable for. But the rest of this is just super duper hyper liberal mumbo jumbo, same as everything else, same as what Kyrie went through, same as what Gina Carano, Nick Cannon, go all the way down the line. If it's not Kevin Spacey or Harvey Weinstein, it's over the top. And what so Don Lemon as well is over the top. I think it's ridiculous. His livelihood should not be put into question because he said this, but it is. And even though they announced on CNN that he's going to be back on television, how much do you want to bet that you're going to have people, primarily women, probably complaining about this ad nauseum in the media, as well as other people at CNN who might be threatening to quit or get or not show up to work. People are going to be protesting. People are going to say, "I'm not going to show up to work if you allow Don Lemon to come back,"
That'd
which
be
is going
great.
to subsequently put pressure on CNN to fire him. And so, even though they made the decision to allow him to recover from his mistake, because of this ridiculous climate that we're in, he might end up getting the boot because of the pressure inherent in the decision to allow him to come back, which is unfortunate, but also, again, not surprising. So, hey, Lemon, all I can say, brother, is provide some context whenever you want to, toe that line, or, just do what you've been doing, man, and just fall in line and say that everybody is great and good and perfect and capable of anything, and just leave it at that. Don't say anything that can even be remotely construed as controversial, because now you're going to have to go through formal training, and good luck with that formal training. I'm sure it'll rehabilitate him. I'm sure it'll effectively rehabilitate Mr. Lemon for all of the wrongdoing that he has done in the world.
Well, this is the issue that I have, with the mainstream media. And right now, the mainstream media agenda seems to be also mainstream music in Hollywood, seems to be forcing extremely liberal views. Uh, they call it progressive, but it's honestly no boundaries types of philosophies that they push on their networks, their TV shows, and their music. So Don Lemon, talking piece for one of these propaganda networks, he has a job and a duty to do, and he has a rule brick to follow. He deviated slightly, and he's paying dearly for it. And he's getting shamed and dragged through the mud as if he said something anti-Semitic. He just
Right.
said that that somebody in their 50s is not in their prime. Big whoop. Now, but I would argue now, like if you're dealing with politics, I would argue that if you're in your 50s, you're politically prime.
Right.
It's kind of like a
Yeah.
head coach. You're in your 50s. You done been through enough seasons. You done been through enough football or basketball to know what's going on out there. So in politics, 50 is that's the right age bracket. But when you're in your 70s and you're suffering from dementia, clearly, this man can't even find his wallet. Y'all got him out here balancing taxes and stuff. Y'all out y'all mind. Now, even though Trump is also in his 70s, he's a lot more spry. I would just say, man, just call it. There should be like excuse me, a physical for entering presidencies. There should be some type of mental memory retention types of Wonderlic tests that they put the presidents through. And hey, look, man, if you can't find your wallet, you can't lead a press conference. So, yeah, so I do think that this is a small window. So, which hints 50 as prime. 60 is like, hey, you still getting it in, you still got your business. 70 is like, all right, tail end of your career. You're wrapping this up.
Yeah.
And so, but now if you're talking about like you say, fertile years, hey, 50, whoa, you're done now. talking about geriatric pregnancies.
Yeah.
Kid
And
gonna
shout
pop out.
by the way, while we're on the subject on a somewhat related note, shouts out to Debrat for getting pregnant at 48 years old. I don't
No,
know if
she
you
did.
saw that.
No, she did not.
Yeah. 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 So she broke the mold. She's one of the few. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know. I haven't read any details. I don't know if she did some kind of treatment or something like that. But shouts out to the brat, 48 years old,
Wow.
pregnant. That's crazy.
Wow. That baby gonna have Benjamin Button disease. Come out. It's like, damn, bruh. He already got, you know what I'm saying? His GED. But shout out to the brat, man. Hey, make it happen, sister. You
Yeah.
making a lot of dreams possible for these sisters out here that can't get a man. So but damn, what was I, man? But yeah, oh yeah, mainstream media and all that jazz, agendas. So with Don Lemon, him being a like I said, a talking piece for the machine, um, it doesn't you can see it doesn't take much for them to go, hey, you can't talk like that. Cut it out. Now you got to go through training. He was like, man, I already been through all kinds of sensitivity trainings and transgender this and that and this. Yeah, well, you got to go through feminist sensitivity training. Yeah, man. Now he has to rewire whatever brain that he had of his own to be in line with the agenda. So now, because I already thought the man was on robot mode, just insert a chip in the back of his neck, and now he don't even need a teleprompter. He just, Don Lemon reading the news. So now, it's like, oh shit, bro deviated slightly from the algorithm and he's paying dearly. So that's the part of it that I find completely ironic and absolutely humorous, because he'll be one of the first people to throw somebody else under the bus for breaking some type of woke code.
Yeah.
And so for him to be up under the bus, yeah, man, I find this humorous, man. And like you
Yeah.
said, man, there's no honor amongst thieves. And
Yep.
if you're sitting around here playing with these people that who play dirty, yeah, you better watch what you say. So yeah, he's getting Kyrie, and for no reason.
For no reason. Yep.
This is this
Yeah.
is this is wild stuff. But
Yeah.
it was now if he was talking political crime, he may need to explain himself there.
Right.
He may need to
Yeah.
explain that.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. That's why I go back to what I said. The only thing that I can say, Don, you need to do better here is you're going to have to provide some context, because prime can mean many different things. And if you meant she's not in her political prime because she's over 50, yeah, you need to walk that back because that's factually incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not that, no, I'm okay. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you are aware of this or not, but if you're in your 50s, you are well past your physical prime. I don't know if that's news to
Oh
you,
yeah.
but that's true. If you are a woman and you are in your 50s, you are well past your prime for having children. Okay. If you're just past all those primes. I'm sorry. That shouldn't come off to you as offensive. And see what the woke mob is doing is they're using it as a linchpin to propagate women. Because what they're doing is they're saying, why is she past her prime? Why is this even something that you're saying in reference to a female when we have all of these male politicians, as you point out, who are old as dirt and still doing their thing? We ain't hear you talking about nobody being past their prime with them. Well, that's because y'all weren't talking about it on the show at the time. Maybe he would have said it if it would have came up, but it didn't. It just so happened to come up with this particular story, and it just so happened to involve a woman. But because women are a protected species, these types of situations can be used as opportunities for these various groups to out another person who's not down for the cause, as if Don Lemon is somehow not an ally, when for years he's been someone who has told the line and has at least shown publicly to be an ally. Like, am I missing something here? Like I said, the only time I have ever seen Don Lemon not be a quote unquote ally is when he had a few segments here or there talking about black people, ironically. That's the only time I've ever seen him do or say something on CNN where he wasn't being an ally. In every other situation, it's been, yeah, that person's a misogynist, or yes, that's definitely homophobic. Yes, that's definitely anti-woman. Yes, that's definitely transphobic. Yes, that's definitely whatever. I mean, so I just, it shows that there's no limit to how quickly you can become an enemy of the machine. And it is a machine, it's a living, breathing thing. These elements exist in the media for a reason. They're there. The mainstream media uses it to their advantage. It's a very real thing. And the last thing that I'll say is I've always found liberal ideology to be somewhat hypocritical, because isn't one of the tenets of progressivism supposed to be an openness of ideas? Like,
Yes.
isn't that supposed to be
Yes.
one of the primary tenets
It's
of
cornerstone.
progressivism? Yeah. Like, where did I go wrong? Am I missing something? I always thought that a primary tenet of progressivism is welcoming of all ideas. It was supposedly the old school way that was wrong because they were closed off to other ideas. But what the liberal stuff is closing off to all ideas that aren't liberal. So how is it any better? How is it any better? This is what confuses me. I should be, and I said this on a previous video, if I should be able to go on to CNN and say, I prefer to have children that aren't transgender, I should be able to say that.
Oh
If we're
shit.
truly, if we're truly in a progressive liberal society, then it is just okay for me to say I have a preference for having kids who are not transgender, as it is for me to say I have a preference for kids to be transgender. But what we see is if I go on national television and say I prefer that my children are not transgender, I will be outed for being transphobic.
You're right.
But
You're
I will
done.
be,
You're done.
yeah, it's a wrap on my whole life. Like, they'll throw me in the gulag for that. Like, they will fly me to Russia and put me in the gulag. You know what I'm saying? But if I get on television and I say, "Oh, I would love it if my kids were transgender," they'll be celebrating me as a hero. And how is that progressive? Like, that's not progressive. It's not progressive. It's not. And people really have gotten this twisted. They have conflated progressivism with their own personal ideologies. And because it's on the side of righteousness, it's okay to be dogmatic. But you can't be dogmatic if you are perceived to be on the opposite side of righteousness. But dogmatism is okay as long as you're on the side of righteousness. It's ridiculous. And it's been this way now for several years, and it's getting worse by the day and the month and the year. And so now, yeah, Don Lemon is a victim of this dynamic, just like Cannon and Carano and all of these other people who said perfectly reasonable things, albeit disagreeable at the very most, and had to pay a heavy cost for what they said. And Lemon's the same. And I ain't no Don Lemon defender, but the facts are if the truth is the truth. It is what it is. So the machine is the machine. It will continue to persist. And to people like Lemon and others, this is why I respect. Like, oddly enough, I can be a Kyrie critic, but what I respect about him is that he thinks for himself. And above all else, I will always respect people who are consistent in that they think for themselves. And Lemon, bro, just think for yourself, bro. Think for yourself. If you were somebody who thought for themselves from the beginning, you might have incurred a lesser penalty. But because you try to toe this line between being the woke ally, but occasionally saying things that might be deemed a little on the edge, now you're in hot water because you're not an ally to women. And so that's what happens with the mob. The mob always wins. So just think for yourself and stay out the way.
If Don Lemon started thinking for himself, he'd start malfunctioning. Steam will start coming out of his neck. It'll just be, it's like, hey man, what's going on with Don Lemon? You know, and this guy here, he's as bought as it gets to me. He is 100% machine. That's the part about this that's like, damn, bro, you're so machine. Like, you can write some of the script, some of it so much, So for this to be a deviation, like I don't know what he was on that day. Maybe too many shots of espresso. What this guy's on. But in any event, Don Lemon to me, he's always been, since he got on the scene, he's always been a caricature of a person. He doesn't even look real to me. He just looks like somebody that reports on CNN. So it's like, bro, like, who are you, dog? The one time he had an opinion, they dragged his ass. So it's like, yeah, man. So yeah, back into your I don't know, into your little hub and
Yeah,
charge back up and get your training back because
right.
apparently you forgot your way. So
Yeah,
shout out to Mr. Lemon, man, giving me a good laugh
yeah.
with this faux pas. This was a good one.
Yeah, yeah. Good luck, Dom. I don't know, man. Like I said, he can go through formal training for 6 months. They still going. They're gonna rake him through the coals for that now for the rest of his career. Every chance they get, if he says anything, they will bring this up and they'll be like, "But remember when he said this about Nikki and said she wasn't in her prime? How can
That's
you
right.
believe? How can you buy anything he said?" Like it's gonna get brought up now into perpetuity for the rest of his career. So, uh, yeah, go ahead and recharge, bro. Go ahead and
Yeah, go back to your charging station.
yeah, because it's
Uh,
almost you about to power down at this point, man.
Don Lemon, Don, go sit your ass down, man.
Oh man. Yeah, she's not in her prime. What? But that's what we do. That's what we do. That's America, man. It's America.
I gotta love it.
Oh boy.